Welcome to Edmonds Election Watch 2015. I'm your host, Teresa Wippel. In the studio is Neil Tibbott, who is running for Edmonds City Council Position 7. Neil, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Teresa.
Could you start by telling us about yourself, how long you've been in Edmonds, and why you're running for the City Council?
Well, my wife and I have lived here a little over 15 years. When we moved here, we had 3 kids in diapers, and now we have 2 kids in high school and 2 in college. So a lot's happened in the last 15 or 16 years since we've been here. The reason I'm running for City Council is I love the city. We've enjoyed raising our kids here. We have many, many friends here. And I've had an opportunity to serve in the city in a variety of ways, and I think we have a wonderful city. Let's face it. People from all around the city enjoy it for a whole variety of reasons. But I think we can do better when it comes to getting along, and I think we can do better when it comes to getting things done together. And so that's what I want to bring to it, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running for City Council.
Okay. And of course, some people are familiar with your name because you're on the planning board, and you're actually chair of the planning board this year. And how long have you been on that board?
I've been on the planning board a little over 4 years, and I've been the chairman just for this year.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, let's start about a pretty simple question, I think, and that is just what do you think are the top 3 challenges facing Edmonds right now?
Some of the challenges are very obvious, and I think one of them that we obviously face is a question of how we would get across the railroad tracks in the event of either an accident or in the event of a stalled train or something like that. And that's a question that's going to be coming and going north and south for quite some time until we really come to a final solution. But we do need something in the short term that would help us along those lines. So that's one challenge I think that we understand that we face especially along the waterfront. Around the city, I think we do face some issues just relative to funding essential services, and our roadway system, walkway systems would fall in that category. We have walkways that start and stop in the middle of a blackberry patch. We have roadways that are horribly maintained, and funding sources need to be identified and secured for an ongoing program for funding essential services. And then the third one I would put in the category of vision for the city. And I think this is one of the ways that the citizens of Edmonds have spoken to us, and that's through the strategic planning process that we entered into several years ago. I participated in it. I brought along some of my neighbors, and it was actually a really enjoyable experience. I learned a lot by doing it, and I thought that the consultants led us in a really viable strategic planning model. Well, the citizens gave us some ideas of where they would like to see the city go. And as a city council member, I would want to make sure that we are intentional about those high priority items that the citizens of Edmonds have already told us are important to them.
Okay, very good. One of the things that I think has come up several times in recent months in discussions with the council has been the fact that right now we're doing okay financially, but over time the forecasts show that we might be running out of money, and there are some high priorities that have not been funded, like street repair and things like that. What is your vision for maybe addressing some of those issues over time with a possible shortfall of funds?
Well, it is concerning. It's hard to know what year that shortfall might arrive at our city, but one of the obvious ways to address those issues is to diversify and even expand our economic base in the city. We happen to be living in a region that's experiencing a great deal of economic growth, and by the way, we're experiencing population growth in the Seattle metropolitan area. And these are global pressures. These are not ones that are going to go away easily or simply by saying no more new people here. This is a population trend that's moving into our area. And so we have some opportunities in our city to not only to accommodate new businesses, but also to accommodate new residents. And that's part of what that says to me is we could be looking for some places where we could do new residential development, which brings REIT revenues, and we could also look forward to, of course, the property taxes that come to the city through that kind of development. I've heard the mayor say that we can't possibly develop our way out of a revenue shortage, but it helps, and I agree with that, and I think that's something that we ought to work towards.
Okay. Let's turn to a few hot button issues that have kind of come up in recent months. Get your take on them. I'm going to start with the Sunset Avenue Walkway.
Okay.
As it's currently configured in this pilot project that's been done, of course, there have been people who love it, people who hate it, people who would like us to, figure out a different way or make some changes. What has been your feeling as you've watched this unfold as to what we should do next with Sunset?
Okay, well, I'm going to tip my hand right away. I'm a walker. We walk all over the place, and we love walking along Sunset Avenue, and I like the configuration of being able to walk on the west side of the street. It really beats the slippery dirt trail that was there before. So I'm very much in favor of a walkway system on that side, but I didn't want to just leave it up to my preferences. And a couple of weeks ago, when it was raining sideways and blowing the other way, I stood out there on the walkway and met people who were walking back and forth, and I asked them what they liked, and I even knocked on the window of some of the people parked in their cars. I said, "What do you think of this?" I even talked with some of the neighbors who have their residence along the street, and it was very informative. And I was thankful for the input that I received. I do hope that we do move forward with a walkway system there, and I wouldn't have thought of doing this, but the pilot project, I think, has showed us where there are some glaring misconfigurations and where things could be fixed. And I did speak with Phil Williams about this just last week, and he said, we're not going to wait for the plan to all come together to make some fixes. We're going to get some things done right away. So I'm very hopeful for a walkway system there, and I'm also thankful for the responsiveness of our city staff to fix some things that need to be fixed even before we have a final plan in place.
Okay. And another question that I think actually was raised at an earlier event you were at, and that is the situation with the playfield at Woodway, the old Woodway High School, and of course that became a point of contention, a point of question among some council members, still going on at this point. What kinds of things, in looking at how it evolved and kind of the council being in a certain position to review certain elements of the plan, and then some citizens wishing that there could be more done, with the concerns about the, of course, tire infill, and whether it's, it may be toxic. Kinds of things as a, council member, if you were a council member, would you have done differently, or what do you think in the future we could do to kind of address some of the citizen concerns that they just didn't feel like they were heard, or they didn't feel like they had known enough in advance about this whole issue?
Well, let me start this way. First of all, I'm very thankful for the people who raised the issue in the first place. The information that they brought relative to crumb rubber as an infill, some of the studies that they brought, and even some of the national resources that have come in recently from other parts of the country that are also having the same kind of questions about crumb rubber is something that's really a benefit to us as a city. Having said that, I do have to say, because I'm on the planning board and we've been looking at this project for a number of years, the notion that that the city was going to build fields in partnership with the school district was not a surprise. We were very thankful that Verdant came on and to be a significant funding partner. And from my point of view, this was a couple of years ago when this started coming together. I was really excited about this project. So the question of the fill material and whether or not even the turf itself could be toxic kind of came as a surprise. And I think it did catch a lot of people by surprise. And as a result, there was many decisions had already been made, discussions had already been conducted, and it was difficult to incorporate some of this new information into the project as it was. Again, we've been talking about the possibility of new fields there for at least 6 years. And some have been planning on it for longer than that. In my opinion, the grounds there are ripe for improvement, and so I'm excited about the possibility of an interlocal agreement that would allow the city of Edmonds to use the fields for our recreational programs, provide recreation for our younger citizens and also opportunities for adults and through our rec programs. So I do hope the interlocal agreement goes forward. However, and I told this to Laura Johnson, who has been working very diligently on a different kind of fill material. I told her that I think that we need to continue to engage with one another over what we do in the future, and that means an ongoing process of discussion with the school district. It means further research and seeing what other groups come up with. But at this point, I feel comfortable with the decision that the school district made. I know several of the school board members personally. I trust that they've done their due diligence. And I would allow my kids to continue playing on the turf that's been installed at those fields. But I also look forward to a vigorous discussion going forward, and I am thankful for those who have raised the question.
You know, something that was kind of a learning experience for me in covering that issue that I think as somebody who's running for council would think about too is just the fact that especially families, you know, are so busy and they have so much going on that they often don't hear about these things until the end of the process. And, you know, you on the planning board or me in a position where I'm hearing these things come up because we go to those meetings, right? But they don't. And so any thoughts you have on just kind of, and this is an age-old question, I think every council member has said,
Right.
how do you get those people more involved in the general workings of government when, you know, only 2 or 3 people sometimes come to meetings and nobody really is paying much attention? Do you have any engagement ideas?
Well, as you may know, I do write a monthly column for one of our local news sources, and it started off as a fairly innocent endeavor to provide information for the city relative to the housing market in Edmonds. And myself and my co-writer Stephen Carlson and I were interested in that topic together, and so we took some of the planning board materials and some additional study, and we put it together in an article that we thought would explain that situation in an interesting and kind of more layman's terms kind of a way. And so that's been an attempt to get the word out in that particular area, and enough people were engaging with it that we were invited to write a monthly column. And one of the reasons we agreed to do that was because with the planning board, I consistently have a forward look of what's coming to the city, and I'm able to talk about that in ways that hopefully engage people. I was told by some of my neighbors that the first that they'd heard about the proposed tree code was from the article that Stefan and I had written. And I was really surprised because, like you said, it's been, part of our planning board agendas. It's been, part of the tree board announcements for months and months. And yet, people didn't really engage with it until they'd read about it, in an article. And so I think that we can do a better job as a city and also as government officials of getting the word out. And I intend to do that primarily through an email list that I have. I've already started it, and if I'm elected, I'll continue to grow that list, and those who are interested in the topics that I cover, I would keep them informed with that news source.
Okay.
And I would, of course, recommend that they read my Edmonds news.
You're welcome to write a column for me anytime.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And one other topic that I think has been a point of concern for some, and that has just been the number of executive sessions that the council seems to have, at least by some people's perception, that maybe there's too many, or maybe the process isn't transparent enough. Of course, there's views on different sides, but what do you think about that?
Well, I understand some of them are legal issues, and those need to be discussed in private, partly because the cases aren't made public yet. So it makes sense that they would have to discuss that in executive session. And then also if they're negotiating real estate sales, that usually needs to be discussed in private until, again, the sale is made public. Other than that, I don't know what they discuss in executive session. Do you?
Personnel issues and labor negotiations,
okay.
real estate, those things. And,
Yeah.
and again, like you say, things that, can't be made public until after the fact. And I guess there's always mystery, though. When you don't know what's being discussed, there's always a level of suspicion that what are they keeping from us, I guess, is what
Yeah.
I hear from people.
You know what? I guess I'm not a suspicious person to begin with, and so I trust that what they're working on is information that will at some point come out. It'll be made public knowledge, and we'll understand why it had to be discussed in private. And then I suppose there are other issues that we'll never know about, and for me, there are plenty of other things to be concerned on and focus with.
Okay. My final question is, you are running against a person who obviously has been in office for a while, and is well-known in the community, I think, by many people. What is it that you think that you could offer the voters that the incumbent, your opponent, is not providing?
Well, I bring a very different style of leadership, I believe, and one of the ways I would describe it is the endorsement that I've received from the firefighters and the police officers of our city. Of course, as a candidate, I'm looking for endorsements from across the spectrum of the city, and I approach the fire department and the police department with regards to some of the issues that they face. And I met with some of them individually, and then I met corporately with some of the others, and I listened to their concerns. And it took time to find out where some of their major issues were in the city. I think if I could talk about them in detail, you would be surprised, like myself, when they identified the issues that were important to them as police officers and firefighters. And I think as a result of our time together, they felt like they were heard, and they felt like I would be a supportive city council member to help them do their very best in the jobs that they have. And that's the kind of creative problem solving I do. That's my reputation as a resourceful person. I like to collaborate with the people I work with. We, like on the planning board, we have some very strong personalities, and we have some people with tremendous gifts and talents, and we bring a variety of perspectives to the complex questions that face us. But I like to think that we not only contribute our strengths to a solution, but we can also learn from each other as we craft a recommendation that we send on to the city council. And so that's the kind of proactive planning that I like to do in coming up with solutions. I think it would be different than what my opponent offers. I think I would bring a willingness to listen to others' point of view and learn from them. And quite frankly, I expect that there will be times when I will make my very best case and I will lose the day. And I will not be the one whose votes with the majority. And yet, I don't see myself as someone who has to keep on fighting if I've lost that battle. I would say the majority has voted against me. They voted for something that they think is positive for the rest of the city. And I would get ready for the next decision that we need to make and go be creative and resourceful all over again. So I think that's a difference that I would bring. My opponent has sued the city twice, and I think that was an attempt to win back some of the ground that she felt like she lost in some of the decisions that the city had made. And I don't work that way. I work very hard at coming up with positive solutions to begin with. If I don't win, I move on to the next thing. So.
Okay, great. Well, now is your opportunity to address the voters and tell them why they should vote for you. So you can do that right there. Your turn.
Well, first of all, I really want to thank my team that's helped me to run for this campaign. We now have over 22 people on a steering committee that's helping me to run. I have 23 plus now elected or formerly elected officials helping with my campaign or endorsing my campaign. And I'm very thankful for the level of support that I've received from the city. On a recent interview that I did with a former council member, he asked me this question. He said, "What kind of leader are you? Are you a visionary leader?" And I described to him how I approach leadership. And I said, whenever I have an idea that's brewing and we're working with people on something that we think is great for the whole city, I want to make sure that it's sustainable. I want to make sure that it's something that's going to last. And he paused, and he said, "You know, I would call you a pragmatic leader." And I liked that. It was the first time that anyone had labeled me as a pragmatic leader, but it really fits my campaign slogan, which is, let's work together to get things done. And I think that's where we're at with this current phase of our city life. And I would like to invite you to vote for me in November. I hope you've heard some things here that would encourage you to do so. I need, of course, all the help I can get running against an incumbent. And I'm thankful already for the many people who have supported me, including State Representative Strom Peterson. And I look forward to the opportunity to bring the kind of positive decision-making to the City Council that I think will make a difference in this city. So again, I would appreciate your vote, and I look forward to serving on your City Council here in the very near future. Thank you.
Neil, thanks so much for coming by, and I wish you the best of luck on your campaign.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.